I'm very happy to have in presence the president of the Foundation Life Sciences in the Toscana Life Sciences, Fabrizio Landi, and of course the President Schetti and the Managing Director of VIB, the Flemish Institute for Biotech. And last but not the least, as we were saying before, Pascal Lisen, who is the president of a federal holding and investment company, apart from being the president of Essentia Vallonia. Well, in 1998, I will say just a few words because we have so many speakers. In 1998, Rifkin, as in a brilliant speech, said that the 21st century is the biotech century, and he compared this revolution to the shift from medieval agriculture to the industrial way of life. I don't know if we can stick with this affirmation because the 21st century has seen so many technological revolutions. Today we are focusing on artificial intelligence, but certainly biotech is very important. It's an excellence in Belgium as in Italy. We will listen to the the Secretary of State about what it represents in Italy. We have more than a turnover of 12 billion, and if we consider 2014-2018, we will see a plus 5%. As far as Belgium is concerned, we can just quote two data. Belgium is 3% of the European economy, the 27 European economy, but the biotech represents 17% of export and a presence in industry of 16% in Europe. So I think that a dialogue between these two sectors was very important, also because if the Made in Italy, this has been a bit a goal of my mandate, if the traditional Made in Italy is quite well known in Belgium, a bit less, the technological excellence we have in biotech, pharmaceutical sector, we can quote robotics, for example, or circular economy. And now, without further hesitation, I would like to give the floor to the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this event. Thank you, Ambassador, for the great work you are doing on this field, in general, relaunching and keep on pushing on the bilateral relation. Honorable guests, dear friends, it's really my great pleasure to open the works of this hybrid event dedicated to biotech industry in Italy and Belgium. Let me express my sincere gratitude to those who have contributed to the organization of this initiative, notably Ambassador Elena Basile, with whom I had the opportunity already to work in the past, and I really appreciated the passion and capability on doing her job, as well as the Economic and Commercial Office of the Embassy of Italy in Brussels, the Italian Trade Agency, Italia, the VLAM Institute for Biotechnology, GSK, BioVin, Toscana Life Science Foundation, as well as the distinguished audience of enterprises and researchers. Today's discussion will focus on an innovative sector with remarkable potential of collaboration. Indeed, the coronavirus disease pandemic has not limited itself to challenge the scientific community and to plunge the world into economic crisis. It has also offered opportunities for new businesses and activities related to this environment. In particular, in the field of biotechnology, a domain of consolidated Italian excellence. According to the data of the Italian Association for the Development of Biotechnology, Biotech, and the National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development, ENEA, the net turnover of Italian biotech industry exceeded 12 billion euros in 2019, with an average annual increase of 5% between 2014 and 2018. Italy hosts roughly 700 companies operating in biotech industry, and I'm particularly proud to acknowledge that 80% of the sector is made up of small and medium companies, which have been a real driving force for the growth of the entire industry. Over the last 3 years, in particular, 50 new innovative startups active in the biotech field have been registered in Italy. At the same time, the Italian biotech industry characterizes itself for its high research intensity, the latter being way above average when compared to the overall Italian industry. Compared to the manufacturing field, the ratio of the biotech R&D investments to the biotech turnover is 4 times larger for the biotech companies. Let me also recall that Italy remains the leading pharmaceutical producer in the European Union, with the increase in exports playing a key role in this achievement. In the last few years, we have recorded the highest growth of our export, plus 107% aggregate, among the major EU countries, plus 74% of average growth. As an advanced and technological-oriented economy, Belgium shares many similarities with Italy, and there is a significant room to establish new partnership between our biotech companies. Indeed, Belgium ranks 4th in the world in terms of biotechnology R&D per firm, 3rd in terms of biotechnology R&D per capita in the business sector, and 1st for R&D intensity in the pharmaceutical industry. Belgian biopharmaceutical production also accounts for 60% of the entire sectorial production within the EU. We also believe that there is room to improve investment flows from Belgium to Italy, considering the complementarity of our economies. For this reason, I strongly encourage Belgian investors to look for investment opportunity in Italy. Foreign direct investments are welcome in our country as they represent a key factor in the economic growth, in the job creation, and in the acquisition of know-how and technology innovation. In this context, it's my pleasure to announce that our ministry, through the Italian Trade and Investment Agency, has already planned the establishment of a dedicated FDI unit within the Italian Trade Commission in Brussels, with the task of carrying out activities of business scouting and attraction of Belgian companies to Italy. We are confident that our fruitful cooperation can be far enhanced, and we are sure that growing interactions between our enterprises can offer a mutual benefit, also thanks to the ambitious strategy we have adopted to relaunch our export and support Italian business presence in foreign markets. I refer to the so-called Patto per l'Export. This strategy was presented by Minister Di Maio in June at the presence of several ministers, public entities, and the main Italian business associations. It is based on 6 main pillars that are communication, integrated promotion, information and training, trade fairs, e-commerce and export, and trade finance. These pillars include suggestions and needs stressed by 147 Italian business associations, which I have personally at the ministry last April. First, Italian Businesses Association underlined the importance of launching an extraordinary communication campaign to convey a new image of our country and relaunch our export in the sectors most affected by COVID-19 emergency. We have already allocated 50 million euros to implement the campaign, and the ministry is also willing to act promptly to help companies, especially SMEs, improving their competencies and skills so to be better equipped to face the challenges of our time and to grasp the many opportunities globalized market offer. To this end, we are working to make the expertise of several thousand of digital export managers available for our small entrepreneurs. At the same time, last June, Minister Di Maio presented an e-book to illustrate in a user-friendly manner to our companies the numerous public schemes and incentives put in place by the government to support Italian business in their activities abroad. The e-book evolved rapidly into a website that you can reach typing export.gov.it, that we have just launched and which is aimed at raising our company's awareness about the public toolkit for exporting. I'm confident that this website can help our companies take the leap into foreign markets through a step-by-step approach. Furthermore, we have set up a digital platform for B2B meetings to cope with the effect of the pandemic in terms of less traveling and less in-person meetings. For what e-commerce is concerned, our trade agency is currently about to sign some new agreements with the main international e-commerce platforms such as Ocado, Alibaba, Amazon, JDI.com, which will help Made in Italy products to gain new visibility in foreign markets through dedicated virtual shop windows. Finally, for what concerns export and trade finance, we widened the set of financial instruments that could allow our small and medium enterprises to increase their industrial and commercial presence abroad. These instruments are directly managed by CIMEST under the surveillance of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and by SACE. Let me conclude by expressing my wish that this event will be the occasion for forging long-term industrial partnerships and deepening economic and commercial relations. I can anticipate to you that our plans for the coming laws is to enlarge the fiscality opportunities, the fiscal opportunities that we already announced in order to invest more and more in Italy, especially in the south of Italy, and I'm sure that the Belgian investors could find new opportunities also in these new laws that we are doing, and new strategies will come for the both of us and our companies willing to cooperate with the Belgian one. Thank you again, and have a good webinar.
Now I would invite the President Landi, who is going also to speak about the fight against the virus, in which his foundation is very much involved. Please.
Buonasera, thanks. I just use the Italian word to remember, as said by the director, this is the week of Italian language in the world, so I just use buonasera to remember that at least our language. So, my presentation is simple, will be done in two parts. First part, as we talk about biotech, I will try to explain the history of this foundation, that could be a model of how biotech is managed in Italy and how it's developing. And the second part, as already announced by the ambassador, as you are one of the centers involved in looking for a cure for COVID-19, I will tell the status of our development, that we are now starting clinical trials, and so we'll see some of the data that has been recently published, etc. So the first slide, basically, TLS, Toscana is, you know what means Toscana. It's a private foundation with mainly public stakeholders. So this is a model in which we try to combine the opportunity to have both private and public working together in developing strategical things. So basically, there are 13 stakeholders, of which the majority are the University of Tuscany, Florence, Siena, and Pisa, the Superior School of Tuscany, regional and local authorities, and the Tuscany, the Siena Bank, and the Siena Bank Foundation. And we are becoming a model that is now discussed also level of nationwide, how to boost innovation in life science and obviously particularly in biotech. Because as you know, biotech is just a subsegment of life science. The undersecretary was mentioning the fact that Italy, since 3 years, is the first producer in Europe of pharmaceuticals in volumes, with about 34 billions of euros, of which 70% are exported. And this is also true for biotech, the subsegment, about 25% of the total production is in biotech. That is similar to Belgium, but in our country, where there is a lot of focus to be. Also, some of the areas are the same, because basically I'm thinking to the role in vaccine. The two major areas of vaccine is Belgium and Italy in basically, what we do, the thanks is that, which is the model? The model that around the target of improving health, we try to do, on one side, innovation, to help others to develop innovation, to have innovation that became economical value, so not only innovation that is theoretical R&D, but became companies, through the model of the startups becoming companies, and the question of generating capability to improve support of clinical activity and training. And this is being a business incubator for startups, a regional cluster, a national cluster, but also a research center that is either a host of third parties research, whatever is companies or whatever is institutional, or our own research. And basically, the idea, without going details, is practically to look to this. First, what is this more specialized strategy? Basically, focusing where you are stronger. So basically, Siena is not only famous for the famous horse race of Palio, but because it's been the place where since the beginning of last century, vaccine has been developed. And vaccine is the first biotech product in history. The first things where the pharmaceutical industry was not using chemical synthesis for developing drugs, but was using nature, whatever nature needs. So vaccine is the first drugs conceptually, but also is biotech by definition. And Siena has been, together some towns here in Belgium, the core of development of vaccine, I would say not only in Europe, but also in the world. And the system, we have about more than 10,000 square meters of labs. That is the value. So we have labs where we can attract startups that come because they can rent labs. They can, so it's not only office, but labs. We've also we have about 35 million of platform technology. We have a pretty large animal facility, BSL lab. So all the things that the startups has problem to finance by themselves, but can be able to pay a rent. And also, we are very generous in terms of relation with startups, obviously. And since the beginning, we have attracted about 300 million euro, TLS and the startups in the system. Today, we have 47 startups and research groups in the two main buildings we have, more than 400 people, 65% women, so this is probably good for the ambassador, and medium age, 33 years, mean age, as typical, and we've been published more than 500 pieces of science in the last years. Basically, as an incubator, we have service of incubation, but also business development. We have our own IP group that helps startups, but not only startups, to do IP. For instance, we make all the IP protection for every concept, every idea that comes from the public hospital in Tuscany. So everything that comes from public hospital and the Polyclinic University in Tuscany, we are responsible to do the IP, and then if the IP is good, to sell the IP to generate researches that then used by the same hospital for other research. Then we have a business development approach, so we can help startups to make their plan, to look for investors. Also, we do projects for instance, we did recently a major project to create the largest pharmaceutical biotech logistic plant in Tuscany. So something where in Tuscany there are major plants like the Glaxo vaccine plant in Siena, the largest plant of Eli Lilly for insulin that produce about 22% of the world insulin is produced in Florence. So there is a huge amount of material that today goes by truck to Rotterdam to be delivered in the world. Forget about the question, things all in terms of the ecosystem, 100,000 of containers going there. So now we are building a system, it's a public-private system, in which we locate somewhere in the back of the port of the port of Livorno, where a pharmaceutical company of every type can have a place where to have both inbound and outbound logistics. This is just to say that the role is not only to be a pure incubator, but also to be an attractor, a stimulator, everything that helps life science to develop. Area of expertise, these are name of company that work in the area. We see a lot of expertise. The only area where there is our own labs is monoclonal antibodies for therapy and biomarkers. So further to be hosting research of other groups, that could be either public companies, private companies, could be public company, could be a university group that has perhaps funding from a non-university source that we want to have their own activity to us. For instance, we have a very significant immuno-oncology team, because in Siena there is one of the largest Italian immuno-oncology group on the clinical side. And so they make their research is done in our labs. We have companies, for instance, in this case, one company is developing saliva testing for COVID-19, their labs are with us also because they use our own human antibodies for preparing the saliva testing, etc. And so you see different things. In the next one, also we do research for companies. He has mentioned GlaxoSmithKline, it is the vaccine division, Menarini Group, Alpha Sigma. So for large company or medium-sized company, you do some research. Again, typically we work, for instance, making particular antibodies for making biomarkers for a certain project of Menarini Group, and we've been with Glaxo different projects, like even sharing platform. Sometimes we Glaxo research because you are close to the Glaxo campus in Siena. So actually, one of our buildings is within the campus. Also, we pay rent to Glaxo, and we have very strong collaboration. So the next one is basically when we start research. We decide to start not only to be an incubator, an accelerator, service provider, but also to develop our own research in biotech. So we started, and we now are the only place in Italy where there are, at the same time, 3 ERC for life science. These are the 3 ERC. ERC, you know, is the European grant to science, to scientists. And on different projects, and also we have some project financed by Work and Trust, project financed by, this project is financed by European Union together with Bill Gates Foundation and other foundation. The idea is to develop our own research, obviously which target, to develop research, and potentially the research is good, to sell the research, to generate resources for funding new research. I don't have to pay dividends to my stakeholders, but if I gain resources, it's my mandate from our stakeholders to generate research for other research in the same field. And from one of these projects, this one, that was originally a project it is still ongoing, to develop a system for antibiotic resistance problem. On February 21st, when there was the first case of COVID-19 in Italy, in the night, I get a call from Rino Rapoli, that is the chief scientist at Glaxo Vaccine, but is also working for us in the therapy. So he was not working for vaccine, he was working for therapy side in agreement with Glaxo. They let him free to do this job in the area of therapy. We had the idea that probably some of the technology developed in this project of antibiotic resistance can be used to develop monoclonal antibodies human-based for treatment of COVID-19. Why, as I say, was the day of patient 1, the first time that was identified a COVID-19 patient in Italy, February 21st. So we decided to start. This is originally, now there are 16 persons plus Rino, so it's a small team. But I'm convinced that in biotech, you need small teams. I'm making all this is typical from Italians. I'm convinced that the future research in biotech is based not on large groups, it's based on small groups, very strong. I always make the reference in 2 centuries, in the 15th and 16th centuries, less than 100 offices in Italy, from Florence to Rome, generate 15–20% of the total cultural heritage of the world, of the Western world. If you make the list, starting from Leonardo, Michelangelo, you see about 250 persons. And why that? I mean, it's not possible. It's not a period where it was just every birth was a genius. Just the system of small, very focused group with the top guys that then teach his team. And that is, I think, I'm convinced, biotech of the future. That is today. Today, as you know, only 20% of the today FDA ongoing clinical trials, that are about 4,000, is based on discovery done in big pharma. 80% of the new drugs are coming from startups, from university groups. Then you need big pharmaceutical company to make the products available. Otherwise, we remain an idea. And this is the idea that we are trying to force. Small teams, very focused, very motivated, no bureaucracy, free of mind, obviously up to make discovery. Then you need the discipline. And that's when it starts. So we started, you can go on, just the blue things, what we are doing. The idea is to use monoclonal antibodies for the treatment to generate passive immunity. You know, with vaccine, you are trying to have active immunity. So it's your own body that generates antibodies. With passive immunity, you are targeting to introduce in your body an industrial-produced copy cloning, as is said in the industry, copy of something generated by a human being that, thanks to these antibodies, has been able to resolve its COVID problem. So what we do, I don't go very detailed, but basically we've been a process in the next one. So what we did, we got from basically two places, the Italian Institute in Rome, that was the first one to have patient. That is the Spallanzani Hospital, that has, at that time, in March, is very one to have the patient. At that time, I mean, patient already cured. And then from another university, and so we select about 4,200 memory B cells from the blood of this patient. From this, we selected, generate from 14 donors. We selected about a certain number of donors, 14 donors, that typically had a very severe, not pneumonia level cough. So someone with 41, 42 degrees, very bad condition, 2 months bed, horrible headache, everything, but not serious pneumonia. And then they've been all recovery basically thanks to their own antibody system, so without any significant support. Out of these 4,200 memory B, if you want, this is a recent published article where you can find all the details, but I'll go for it. The next one, basically, from this, we sorted 1,700 molecular antibodies that are specific for the protein of SARS of COVID-19. So from 4,500, then you go down to this. Now, out of these 1,700, next one, we go to 340 that we found able to basically inhibit antigen receptor binding of a COVID. So that is the approach. I don't go through the technical details. So out of these 1,700 supernatants containing S protein specific monoclonal antibodies, we selected 340 that have been found able to inhibit. How we found? Because physically we're exposed to COVID and looking what has been the reaction. Next one. Out of these, we selected the 14 more potent, where potent means that at the smaller quantity, they can stop replication of the virus. Out of these 14, we selected 3 that are the most potent of the 14, and for GMP production. And now one that is internally called J08, but that's its internal name, is now under cloning in facilities, and after the cloning, that will be ending next month, we'll have 4,000 doses that will start clinical trials. Next one. So what is the target? Is by ending of November to have the first dose for clinical trials. Remember, we are not a large company, so I need to find all the funding for doing these things. And so, for instance, we decide not to go to the typical EMA or FDA pathway. So we use the Italian COVID emergency law, for which, for emergency purpose, the Italian Institute of Health and the Italian Pharmaceutical Agency of the government can control clinical trials, arriving to permission for use in Italy under emergency law. This way, we are limiting in this phase the investment, but we are doing obviously exactly like what could be done with EMA, but only the difference is the total number of patients. The target is to start clinical trials in January in order to have conclude phase 3 by Q2, potentially 2021. If the thing goes well, we have already an agreement and we'll be ready with our limited resource to produce up to 1.5 million doses in the first 8 to 12 months. Obviously, if all things goes well, then obviously the discussion will be, at this point, we need some company, some industrial partner probably to do the general production and the worldwide things. In the same time, if this is my last things, just one pushing, we are trying to do other things. Obviously, we are mapping the epitome. This is a little more technical, but just what is the idea? The idea basically that we can probably have an approach that can make even a development of the vaccine. Today is not the priority. There are a lot doing vaccine, but assuming the vaccine will be still an open question 6 months from now, we'll try also to evolve. Second, based on our cross-reactivity, we are discussing the possible broadly proactive monoclonal antibodies. Can be used also for other things. And third one, we are checking the idea of the combination therapy. For instance, to see if not only one monoclonal antibodies, but a mix. And this either could be mixed with our own developed, so we at the moment we have a patent 20 different monoclonal, but also we are discussing, for instance, with another institute, not in Italy, a very important institute, the idea to combine, that also develop monoclonal, eventually to combine different monoclonal antibodies to make a combined therapy. But this is for the future. The target now is this, and crossing the fingers, I hope that in some months will be one. There are there are fortunately a lot of people developing things. I think it's very important. Hopefully, I hope that we'll be one of the ones succeeding. As a human being, I hope anyway that someone will succeed, whatever in me or in others. If we will be one, it's important that we will be one. I think there is space for more than one production, for more than one approach, as it is usually in pharmaceutical, in the drug industry. And that is everything. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Secretary of State, and friends, it is my honor to be associated with this event, which is highlighting the biotechnology, the life sciences assets of two great countries, Italy and Belgium. My background is not in academia, it's in industry. I was chairman of Janssen Pharmaceutica and the operating committee of Johnson & Johnson, which is the largest healthcare company in the world. My association with my partner, Jo Bury, at the VIB started 4 years ago. And during this process, I have witnessed tremendous growth at VIB, and at the same time, I've become a great admirer of the world-class science that they produce. It's a very unique model, and I think this is something for Italy and Belgium also as two large countries. It's one of collaboration and partnership. It's very unlike something I see in the United States, which is working in silos. It's 5 universities working across, it's Brussels, Louvain, it's Antwerp, Ghent, and Hasselt, working across different platforms of research in a very collaborative fashion and producing world-class science. In fact, my partner, when he presents and tells the story of VIB, will show it compares with the best in the world. So it's incredible, but it doesn't stop with basic science. It's the translation, and the mission they have there is science to value. And the translation of that science through world-class tech transfer, intellectual property, financial models is something that they have developed in an ecosystem which has created a huge number of spin-offs, thousands of jobs, and a great amount of value added in addition to products that are going to be coming off the line pretty soon. So to tell the whole story of VIB, I invite the co-founder, my partner, Dr. Jo Bury.
So, Madam Ambassador and dear people here present, it's a pleasure for me to be here and introduce you to the VIB and the biotech ecosystem here in Flanders. I think there is wide opportunities for interactions with the Italian ecosystem. So my story goes from science to value, and because we have a double mission. The ambition, first of all, was to set up a basic research environment in which we do, I would say, frontline science, but then, of course, try also to valorize that and turn that into value. So our mission is to be excellent in science and be excellent in the process of what we call tech transfer. What are we today? We are a research organization in a joint venture with 5 universities where we have research groups working, 86 research groups in total, clustered in 9 thematic centers, a total crowd of 1,600 full-time equivalents from many different nationalities, some of them Italian, and I see that one of our top scientists is here. Nice to see you, Antonella. And so the focus of our work is actually on 9 themes, which you see here, which I can summarize as trying to understand the molecular mechanisms of life. If you know how cancer develops, what the DNA and the proteins involved are, when you understand that, you can develop targets which you can drug, which you can, use as a target for drug screening. If you can see what is wrong in a certain disease, you identify the protein which is the cause of a disease, then you basically can use that as a kind of diagnostic for the disease. So that's the way we work. We do this both in plant development, and we do this in different diseases with major focus on cancer, inflammation, and neurodegeneration. What we want to do with our science is to make the difference. We want to be top of the world in what we do, and we have a very stringent selection process within VIB we are going through as I speak. So basically, the way we do it, we don't provide tenures to our faculty, we provide rolling tenures. Every 5 years they are reviewed, and if they belong to the top 10% in the world in their field, they will be continued in the VIB. If not, they will have to leave. That's basically the principle. And what we do for the rest is to create a stimulating environment for scientists to be. So our scientists are in state-of-the-art infrastructures all over the place. We are providing them with, this is an example of a latest realization in Ghent for medical biotechnology. We surround them with, I would say, advanced technologies that, that people can use to, at the best way to advance their science in different areas. I will not go into detail. And something special we have is that we are looking for new technologies that are coming our way within a couple of years from now, and we provide pre-commercial access to our scientists to the most exciting technologies. And this technology is important. It's like shining light to a place that was dark before, and then you see new matter, and you can invent new things. It's very, very important. I will skip this for the sake of time. The research budget of VIB is about 150 million today, of which we receive about a quarter from the government, which is this part in the pie chart, and the rest of the money is coming in through competitive sources, so our scientists apply to all places, local, regional, national, international collaboration with industry to find the money we need to do our research. But of course, it's very important that we get structural funding for about a quarter of our work from the government. Now, this grant from the government comes, of course, with a management agreement, and within this management agreement, there are key performance indicators on numbers of publications in the top journals we have to publish, but also on, I would say, the valorization aspects like IP, starting up companies, and so on. So let me share with you a couple of examples. So this is our scientific production, I would say, of last year, about 750 papers published in international journals. But the most important part of it is that about a third of them are published in the top 5% journals in the field, and that's where we want to be. Really in the top journals where, only high quality research with, stunning results are accepted. And so this is the evolution since we started in VIB now 25 years ago. We are a pretty young institution, actually. So we started with about 750 people in '96. I would say the evolution that you can see over the years from the start until last year. And this is the production on the y-axis of the number of papers published in these top 5% journals. And so we started well with about 650 people, but now, being almost doubled in critical mass, our production is tenfold. So we publish about 250 of these papers as the results of our science. Of course, publishing in the best journals is a good thing, but to know whether they are really making a difference, they have to have impact in the field. This is a pretty complicated slide, but what it tells you is it's a ranking published by Leiden, CBTS group in Leiden, that is a bibliometric group. And what they are doing is ranking the universities and institutions worldwide based on the citations that their papers receive. And what you can see from this slide is that we are ranking fifth, actually, in this list, with 25% of our publications belonging to the top-cited papers in the fields, all fields in the world. So this is pretty amazing, even to us when we did the first analysis, because we beat even Cambridge and Oxford with these data. And so we're very proud to announce that many of our PIs, about 1/3 of them, have a running ERC grant. This is a very objective, I would say, evaluation of the work done by our PIs, and the scientist sitting here is applying for one of these starting grants, by the way. Now, this is the basis of our science, and just want to give you these slides to tell you that we have been striving for absolute top excellence in the science we do in the areas in which we work. And that, of course, is a great basis to valorize, to create value, economical development from that science. And so that's what we do in our innovation and business team. Let me tell you how we work. The way we work is, and I will try to make it simple, so everything starts, of course, from the research that we do, which is supposed to be breakthrough and frontline in their field. And so when we can, we try to file IP, intellectual property, on that, inventions made in the lab. We file every year for about 25, 30 patent applications, which then find their way through business development to research cooperations and partnerships with existing industry, with companies in the surroundings. About half of them is with Belgian companies, but the other half is all over the world, including Italy. And the other part is that some of that IP ends up in our new ventures team to start up new companies, if possible, on our science. And so then the next step, of course, is, to make these collaborations flourish and to make these starting companies work. So this is the evolution of the income from industry over the last about 10 years. As you see in the axis evolve it's about somewhere between 10 and 15% of our total income is based on collaborations with industry. And so we are activating our scientists to open up their minds and their labs to collaborate with industry. I think this is extremely important. And although in the beginning, our scientists saw some ethical questions in that, and collaborating with industry was considered as something dirty for academia, this has completely changed in the DNA of the scientists of VIB. So now we are happy to collaborate. And what you see here in orange is the, I would say, annual income from collaborative science with the industry. But on top of that, sometimes we are lucky that when we have started up a company, that these companies do an exit. And we have, of course, equity in those companies, which we sell at that moment. And this is the income actually from these companies. So this is really making a difference. And all that money, we are a not-for-profit organization, as shown in Tuscany. So we are reusing that money, reinvesting that money into the basic research. And so the circle turns around. For the startup companies, the way we work is pretty much the same approach. So we start from the science done in the labs, and we try over the value chain to add value at different steps. First of all, making the technology robust. And to that, we need to develop, the technologies coming from TRLs 2, 3, 4, and develop them to TRLs 7, 8. For that, we have different instruments like the Proof of Concept Fund to make that development. And if all goes well, write a business plan, get managers on board, get investors on board, and start up the company within the region. A very nice example I'm pretty proud to show is an invention that we made in the very early days of VIB, where we showed that camelids and llamas have a specific type of antibodies, which we call nanobodies, which are very small antibodies, which are, I would say, natural heavy chain antibodies. And they can be used as a platform to, develop diagnostics and develop therapeutics. Using that technology, we have started up different companies in the region. One of them is Ablinks. That is a company specialized in using these nanobodies to produce drugs against specific diseases. This company now employs 250 people. The company was sold to Sanofi for a value of $4 billion. So I think we can really create value. And these are other examples using the same platform. I will not go into detail here. This is our startup portfolio over the years from when we started. We started in 96, so the first one was DevGen in 97, and that is how it evolved over the years, with some difficult years in the middle during the financial crisis, as you can see, but it has been increasing over the years, and the amount of people working in those companies is increasing, now close to 1,000 people. The capital invested in those companies, in the equity of these companies, is over €1 billion. Half of that money is coming from international investors that basically invest in the economic development in our region. So that's a very nice example for our politicians. So I'll go immediately to the last slide. To summarize the whole thing, what is unique about VIB, we are a research institution, and research institutions in principle stick to just doing research. We try to take it one step further and build from that an economy locally in the region, of course. So the start of it is the core business of VIB, which is science that is really making the difference. And then we create intellectual property on that, collaborate with industry, creating income for the science we do, creating startups. We have created 27 startups in the meantime, provide bioincubator space, so pretty much like just explained by our friends from Tuscany, and then do different things to support the ecosystem where needed, you know, to make the chain strong. We made, together with an outside company specialized in doing analysis on the economic value created. They found out that for every euro invested in the research of VIB, there is 11 euros created that create a return on investment for the region. So this is a very important, I would say, measure to explain you the title From Science to Value. Thank you.
So, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here tonight with you. I have a huge challenge tonight. I have to give you an overview about the activity of the cluster BioWin and about the Walloon ecosystem. So BioWin was created 15 years ago. It's clearly an initiative of the government. At that time, it was an initiative of Minister Marcourt. This initiative was strongly supported by two entrepreneurs, Jean-Stéphane, head of GSK, and also Yves Jongen, head of IBA, Ion Beam Application. The cluster federates all the players in the innovation system in Wallonia. The mission is quite simple. The objective is to develop innovative research programs to have an impact on the economy and on the creation of jobs. So the mission is to accelerate and to the innovation to meet public health challenges, and today they are huge challenges with COVID-19. And the second mission is the development of knowledge, employment, and competitiveness in the region. As I told you before, the cluster federates all the players of the innovation system, and we collaborate with companies, large and small, in the ecosystem. We have a lot of contacts with universities and research centers in the region. We closely work with education organizations. We work with hospitals. Most of the new devices or new treatments are tested in the hospitals, university hospitals in the region. We closely work today with capital providers because we support the growth of the companies in the ecosystem. And of course, we also work closely with the government and the administration, the public administration, the government who defines the innovation policies in the region. We have a lot of contacts with other clusters in Europe, and we collaborate with Italian clusters. We are involved in European programs with Italian clusters like BioPMed, for example, in Piedmont. And we have a lot of interactions with other bioregions in the world outside Europe. This work is developed in close collaboration with our trade agency, with the AWEX, Agence Wallonne à l'Exportation. The cluster develops 4 different kind of activities. Research and innovation is really the art of the activity of the we support the emergence and we develop research and innovation programs. We open call for projects twice a year. These projects must involve universities of the Fédération Wallonie-Bruxelles and also must involve companies in the ecosystem, large or small. There is a possibility to include non-Walloon partners in our research and innovation programs, and we have in our project portfolio entities, Italian entities, either academia or companies. So research and innovation is the most important activity. Today we have 50 projects in our portfolio for a total budget of 150 million euros. We develop a lot of projects with our trade agency. The objective is simply to find new opportunities of research, new opportunities of business with most of the bioregions in the world. Talent development is also key. It's clearly a problem for a lot of bioregions to attract talented people. We strongly believe that it is important to work with education organization and high schools and universities because it is clear that the development of the ecosystem is closely linked to the availability of trained, talented people. We support the growth of the small and medium companies. We connect the companies with VCs and help them to prepare their business plan. So 4 kinds of activities in 4 strategic domains. The most important one is biopharmacy. We have a high concentration of companies, large and small, working in this sector. I include in this domain, of course, entities developing biologics, developing vaccines, developing cell and gene therapy products, and also CDMOs, so companies developing developing these products at the industrial scale. Digital health is also a key sector for the region. We have in Belgium a long tradition in nuclear medicine, and we have a critical mass of players in academia, and also we have a critical mass of companies developing radiopharmaceuticals or radiodiagnostic products. And we also have companies developing medical devices and in vitro diagnostics. So 4 kinds of activities, 4 strategic domains. It's in a nutshell what we do. I will now give you an overview about our health ecosystem. Wallonia is located in the south of Belgium, as you probably know. And we have in Wallonia 5 universities, 3 large and 2 small. And not very far from these 5 universities, we have science parks where there is a strong industrial activity. Startups coming from the universities are located there. And it's a high concentration of players working in the same field in a very limited space. In this ecosystem, of course, we have universities, we have small and medium companies and startups. We have also large groups. In 2005, when the cluster started its activity, there were 5 large groups, and today there are 10. Among these large groups, of course, we have GSK, we have Baxter, we have UCB, IBA, etc. So a high concentration of players working in the life science ecosystem. Some information about the pharmaceutical or biopharmaceutical industry in the region. 50,000 people are working in this sector in the region. We have 3.7 million inhabitants in Wallonia, so it's a high concentration of. What is quite impressive is the average annual employment growth since 2005. This average annual employment rate amounts to 7.7% if we consider small, medium, and large companies. If we only focus on small and medium companies, so if we exclude a large group, the average annual employment growth amounts to 13%. Another important data is the amount of private capital raised by our SMEs since 2005. Our SMEs have raised not far from 3 billion euros. We invest a lot of money in R&D, so the private sector invests a lot of money in R&D each year. Each year, the private groups invest 1.2 billion euros in research and development activities. For Belgium, it's 3.7. The sector represents 27% of the total export in Wallonia, so it's a very important sector for the region. I spoke about the importance of research and innovation projects for the cluster. We have a portfolio of 49 projects for a total budget of 60 million euros. I will make a focus on the creation of jobs. As I mentioned, we have an impressive employment growth in 2005. In the middle of the slide, you have the evolution in the total ecosystem, large groups, small groups. On the right part of the slide, you have the evolution of employment in small and medium companies. So it's quite impressive. On this slide, you have an illustration of the evolution of the capital raised by the SMEs since 2005. As I mentioned before, our SMEs have raised not far from 3 billion euros since 2005. But on this graph, you can see that there is an acceleration in this process since 2015, and this year will be quite exceptional, as you can see on the upper part of the slide. So that's what, in a nutshell, what I would say. I have to mention an additional comment on this slide, that the investors in the SMEs, like mentioned by Joe Burry, they come from everywhere in the world. Of course, we have European investors, but we have American investors too, more and more Asian investors. They come from in Asia, from South Korea and Japan, simply because we have a lot of interest from these two countries in cell therapy. And we have more and more Chinese investors do, it is clear that these foreign investors clearly contributed to the professionalization of the sector in Wallonia. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I am ready to answer any question you may have about the cluster or about the ecosystem.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, just want to conclude. As you had heard, Belgium has been able to create a sort of biopharma valley, and I'm sure that Italy has the same ambition, and I'm also sure that a lot of European countries will want to reach the same goal, being the best in class in terms of biopharma industry. And let me conclude by saying this few words about the story of an SME called active in the vaccine business, called GSK Vaccines, which is now the world leader in the vaccine business, and how this very small company has become the world leader. And just to illustrate the different conditions that we have been able to put in place to succeed and to be the best in class. And when I look back 25 years ago, when I joined GSK, it was clear that the portfolio of product in R&D was so evident that we will succeed, that we need also to be prepared to be successful. We knew that we have a good portfolio of vaccine, but we were not yet on the market. So there was still a long way to do, a long way to achieve this, the success to put in the market and to make available a lot of new vaccines. And as you can understand, when you are a non-Belgium company, GSK is a UK-based company, you had also to convince your CFO of your corporate that you will need to invest in Belgium, a small country, around 15 billion euros in the next years to develop this company. And it's not an easy target, I can guarantee you. So you need also to be able to convince your CFO that he will put his money in the right place. And finally, we did it. We invest a lot because we want to have an integrated business in Belgium. By integrated, I mean doing research, doing development, doing manufacturing, and doing logistics and commercialization from the same place in Belgium. Time after time, we export a lot, but also we have decided to expand our activities in different countries all over the world, including Italy, of course, where we have activities in Rosia and in Siena, which is also a key investment. But coming back on a few years ago, and now with the feedback I have from this year's, I can summarize on 7 key assets we need to have to develop this type of biotechnology ecosystem, which is key for the development of your science, but also of your country. The first of all, and I think that Mr. Burry and Mrs. Poncho illustrate that very well, you need to have a big and a very efficient academic network. At GSK, we will never be successful if we don't have the right scientists to work with in different universities. We have always tried to avoid what we call the NIH syndrome, the non-invented here syndrome, thinking that we have been able to do everything by ourselves. No, most of our 40 different vaccines have been developed with scientific collaboration in different bright universities. Of course, in Belgium, because we have a very good network and quality of universities, but also with different universities all over the world. But you have to be surrounded by the best scientists. This first, so a good academic network. The second point that's quite very important is about the regulation. When you know that you are innovative, you will need to have the support of your local agency to support your access to the market. And we can admit that in Belgium, the regulator is quite, I would say, positive, neutral, but positive to innovation that is in your country. This is the second point, regulation. The third point is maybe less important, but quite well. It's about the public opinion. We know that in certain countries, the public opinion are not very favorable to the pharmaceutical industry. We can say that in Belgium, the pharma industry, biopharma industry, is well perceived by the public opinion. It's also something very important, also because you need to attract talents, and it's key. And I think we have this competencies in Belgium. The fourth criteria I see is about the quality of life. It's strange to talk about quality of life when we are doing research and development of product, but the quality of life in your country allows you to attract the best talent of the world. You cannot work alone. At GSK, we work with 80 different nationalities. So you need to attract the right talents, but you need to retain your talent. And the quality of life, quality of education, and something like that is key when you want to develop a growing business. Another point is about logistics. You are not only doing research, you produce your product, and you need to export all over the world your products. We export 1 billion doses vaccines every year. If you don't have a logistic hub in your countries, you will have some issues to distribute the right time your product. I think that we can say that Belgium, with different airports, with different transportation mode, is quite very well equipped in terms of logistics. The sixth, and it's not the less important, it's about the finance. It's about the incentive that your government will create to develop IP, to develop new product. And in fact, in Belgium, we have the chance to have a good financial environment. We have some incentive like the reduction of cost of researchers, which is key when you have a lot of researchers. You pay less, the cost is less than in other countries. You also have a reduction tax on your sales if you have developed your product and your RP in Belgium, which is key also if you want to continue to attract investors, but yourself continue to invest. So the financial aspect of the environment is not to underestimate, and it's quite very interesting in Belgium, where the different governments at federal level, but also at regional level, understood quite early that it's something that's key to attract new investors. And finally, I will say the seventh point, it's about what we have just heard about the health clusters, like VIB, like WellBio, like BioWin, which is a sort of possibility for a big company to talk with a small company and also to have contact with academics. It's really a good system to create this added value. This, for me, the 7 key condition that we have used and we have benefit at GSK to be now the #1. And I'm quite sure that a lot of other companies, a lot of SMEs, when you look the biotech environment in Belgium actually growing with a lot of spin-off of universities, it's quite motivating. And if I may, finally, I had the chance and honor to be the chairman of the board of SFPE, which is the Belgium Federal Investment Company, but also the holding company, which have invested in a lot of different sectors just to manage the asset of the Belgian federal government. And you can imagine that we have invested in key sectors like energy, like mobility, like environment, like bank sector, like real estate, but not at, last but not least, in bioscience. So very earlier, a few years ago, the Belgian government has said we need to invest in life science, in biotech sector. There's a reason why we have a lot of participation in more than 100 biotech companies in Belgium. Again, that's my conclusion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everybody. I would like to thank the ambassador for the invitation and all of you for your time, your valuable time tonight. In my short presentation that will mix with the presentation that will follow me of my colleague Marco D'Acunto, we'll try to pinpoint on some aspects of why invest in Italy in the biotech sector. And what kind of support you can receive whenever you decide to choose Italy for your investment. First of all, Italy is an attractive country. In the last 3 years, we are in the top 10 on the Ati-Kernick FDI Confidence Index. The investors are looking to Italy as a top 10 country to invest in, and I think that this is also due to a strong capacity of our industry, production and R&D. Those characteristics are mainly described by the life science sector. The life science sector accounts for more than 10% of one of the top 10 worldwide GDP. We are strong in pharma. We are the main producer in pharma. We overtook Germany on that. We are strong in medical device. Well, there are some classes that are well known around the world, like the Mirandola district, but we are also growing in the biotech sector. The example that Mr. Landi said before is just one example of our excellent. There are a pipeline of over 300 projects, and we hope that this will be the trend that growing in the next couple of years. We can spend time on describe what are the characteristics why Italy is attractive in the life science sector, because of the production, pharma production, because of the number of graduates that is growing, because over 60% of the companies that are in the pharma sector are foreign owned, because of our position in the center of the Mediterranean, with strong ports and freight village structure and so on. I would like to focus just on 4 points. The first is the capacity of Italy to be an hub. Over 80% of the huge manufacturing value is exported. We are an hub for those that are producing here to bring all over the world. The second point is the ability to manufacture. We are the first country in Europe for CDMO manufacturing value, and most of them is for attraction production once made abroad, or the growing of existing production. That means that the products that we are producing is very good, because companies are deciding to invest more and more. We are supporting some of those, and they are willing to increase their production in Italy. In the last couple of years, this is a trend that is well recognized by multinationals. This is because the quality of our human resources is high, and not less important, the cost of our human resource is not as high as the comparable country. As you can see, the cost of our human resource is lower with respect with the other countries that are comparable as we are in the sector. And very interesting, the number of quality human resource is growing in the last years, and we expect that this would be a trend even in the next year. So if you are coming here, you find high quality human resource with a good number of human resource and with a lower cost with respect to other European countries. Last but not least, the quality of our R&D were recognized. I mean, we have a lot of investment in R&D in the pharma sector, but also in the biotech and even in specific subsector, as the vaccines one, as Mr. Landi said before. Last but not least, there are a lot of multinationals that already did it. That is always a good reason to invest in a country. We have over 40,000 employees in the pharma sector are employed by foreign-owned firms. That means that we are able to work in multinational context. So it's not that difficult to teach to the Italian employee how to approach in a multinational company. Very few words about what is the Italian support to FDI. As Italian trade agency within Italia, we are running program Invest in Italy that support a foreign investor through the very beginning till the end of the process. We have office abroad, 78 office abroad, and as the Undersecretary said before, we'll open a specialized, we will put a specialized person within our office in Brussels that is direct with the director Luigi Ferrelli. Thanks for this opportunity too. And we support, thanks to the Italia, as we will listen later on, through all the process within investment in Italy. But the main investment are also followed by a specialized committee with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the Ministry of Economic Development, with the Ministry of Economy, that just look at the biggest investment in order to be able to finalize the investment as quick as possible and as effective as possible. We cooperate with the association, with cluster, like the Tuscany one, and we cooperate with the regional government in order to be able to fully support the investor in any part of the process. You see at the moment we have a network in some of our 78 offices around the world. We have an office in Brussels, and in the office in Brussels we'll have an FDI specialist very, very soon. I don't want to lose much more time. I would like to thank you again for your valuable time and Ambassador to invite us, and obviously invest in Italy, and we are here to support you. Thank you.
So, good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the ambassador for inviting me. First of all, my name is Marco D'Acunto. I work at Italia, the national agency owned by the government and in charge of economic and industrial development. What we do is cooperate with the Italian Trade Commission on inward investment activities. We work closely together under the brand Invest in Italy. This evening, I would like just to introduce you to our services and our incentives dedicated to foreign investors. Our services are provided throughout the entire investment process, and they include location scouting on site visit, financial and incentive advisory, support for obtaining authorization and permits in order to speed up the investment process, support for HR recruiting. In addition, we facilitate relation with the public authorities and administrations and create customized liaison with Italian stakeholders, such as industrial cluster, R&D centers, universities, and so on. So, in the slide, you can see the main important incentives and fiscal benefits organized in 4 groups. The first refers to large investments, so tools dedicated to large-scale industrial investments. The second group deals with R&D activities and include a tool like the innovation agreement. The third group refers to fiscal benefits that mainly are targeted to research activities and investments dedicated to Industry 4.0 technologies. Last group is our incentive schemes dedicated to boost innovative startups and SMEs. I would like just to make an insight on 2 incentive schemes directly managed by Italia. They are the development contract and the Smart and Start program. Okay, let's start with development contract. It is dedicated to large-scale investment of a minimum value of 20 million euros. Beneficiaries can be a single company, but also a group of companies developing different investment projects, but that have to be connected and functional among them. In this case, the proposing company has to invest, as you can see from the table, a minimum value of 10 million euros, while the partner affiliates company, each one has to invest a minimum value of 1.5 million euros. The development contract is a scheme upon request. That means that it is always available and is related to evaluation process carried out by Invitalia within 120 days. Invitalia is always available to provide assistance and advice to companies before the application in order to support companies to draw up the best investment proposal before the application. The project can start immediately after the submission, and the maximum duration is 3 years. In this chart, you can see the aids and the intensity aids provided by development contract. Let me say, first of all, that aids are both grants and soft loan. And the amount of public aid depends on 2 factors, the company size and the geographical location. For instance, a medium company investing in southern Italy can get grants up to 35%. Let me spend some words on research activities. So R&D investments are eligible to development contract, but note that there is a big requirement that R&D and innovation projects must be part of a larger industrial development program. Beneficiaries are companies, but also research and universities involved in the R&D programs. In this case, the aid intensity doesn't change on the basis of a geographical requirement. That means that also large companies can be supported everywhere in the whole national territory. It's the case of the Lamborghinis, just an example that invested a few years ago in Emilia-Romagna. Lamborghini, of course, is a large company, and his R&D program was supported significantly by the development contract. So this is just an exemplification showing the amount of money that the company may obtain through the development contract. For instance, a medium company investing in South Italy may get 7 million euros in terms of grants, while in central and northern regions of Italy, but only in selected locations, can obtain 4 million euros on the basis of an investment in manufacturing of 20 million euros. In this slide are shown some achievements, so key results of the development contract. As you can see, thanks to the development contract, there were implemented total investments of almost 6 billion euros, and many of the investment programs were carried out by foreign investors, as in the examples, including also a pharma giant as Sanofi. So let me spend some words on another tool, another incentive measure managed by Invitalia. It is called Smart and Start Italy, and is a tool dedicated to startup. So the aim is boosting the creation and development of innovative startups. It works nationwide, and the investment has to range between 100,000 euros and 1.5 million euros. The maximum project duration is 2 years, and the evaluation is carried out by Invitalia in only 60 days. Beneficiaries are innovative startups that have to deal with technological activities. The startups have to be established for no more than 5 years. In this case, it consists in an interest-free loan up to 80% of the total investment. This percentage may rise to 90% if the members of the company are women or young people under 35 years old, or a member of the company is an Italian PhD working abroad and coming back to Italy. There is an additional advantage for startups based in southern Italy. In this case, the companies will repay only 7% of the loan. That, in other words, means that they will receive the 30% of the loan. Okay, here are listed the eligible expenses related to Smart Start program, and they refers to both investment costs and running costs. As you can see from among investment costs, there are equipment, hardware and software, and also intangible assets, while running costs include labor costs and also, for instance, services of incubation and acceleration. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Of course, I'm available for further information. You can send me an email and I will be very glad to answer to your question. Thank you again.
So I think today we were able to give just a little contribution to this cooperation between Italy and Belgium, and we hope that today we could have some interesting information about Italy, and that this will incentivize further investments, because as you have understood, this is, of course, the main goal of Italy, as the Secretary of State said. Thank you to the speakers, and thank you to everybody for being here today, and